We live in polarizing times. What? That is brand new information. The notion of diversity isn't just, it's not even close to being celebrated, right? It's barely even tolerated. We have presidential debates that look like my kids arguing over Legos. Tell me I'm wrong. We have massive shifts in the dialogue about racial justice. We have increasing effectiveness in people being digitally fed the narrative they want to believe, regardless of how that corresponds with reality. The echo chambers of our social media feed are forming disciples of products, news outlets, and idealized photoshopped lives, but not Jesus. Welcome to Missio. We're glad you're here. Our hope over the next few weeks as we start a new teaching series called Kingdom Come is that we together look at pictures of Jesus' kingdom and his church to say, how is it that we should be formed together as followers of Jesus in the midst of these times, these moments that God has given us to be his church? That's the invitation, and we're really glad you're here. Neuroscience would tell us that over time, something called memory burn occurs by extreme highs or extreme lows, and the middle parts of an experience tend to fade away in the memory system. Like, we remember the really high points and the really low points after a certain amount of time. It also tells us that these highs and lows can be manipulated later on by the stories we tell. And so that's why some of your memories when you were a kid, you thought they were amazing, and then you ask your parents about them, they're like, that was the worst vacation ever. We just took one picture and told you it was good for your whole life. That's why Disney tries to have a few massively impressive experiences that trick you into forgetting that you actually waited in line for 2.5 hours in the blazing sun eating a $17 churro to ride a ride for 19 seconds because they made the 19 seconds that amazing. Tell me I'm wrong. You tell stories of the highs and seemingly everyone forgets just how much it might have been miserable in the middle of it. What shapes us is what we experience most deeply and what we reinforce over time by telling stories about it. And I don't think that's by mistake. I think God wired us that way. That's why he does these mighty things in history. And then he tells his people, hey, remember to tell this story over and over and over again so that you remember this is who I am. This is what my world looks like. This is how things really are, because you are going to be faced with a million other stories telling you a million other interpretations of the world you live in. And we experience that because if you're honest, sometimes we wrestle through and say, is the kingdom of God really here? Like in the face of so much pain and sadness and sickness and suffering and loneliness and abuse and disease and death, is it really true that God reigns supreme and Jesus is on his throne and it's only a sting of death left because Jesus resurrected? Is that really true? It's a fair question to ask, and it's one that we have to wrestle with. Is the kingdom really here? The good news of the kingdom, I would argue, is what needs to shape our reality more than the translations of events that we hear from news sources, family folklore, and Insta stories, but only if it's really true. We need to wrestle with that. Is what we're setting out to do really a part of his kingdom agenda, or is it our own desires that we've taped on to the front cover of our Bibles?